Another thing I discovered in Malaysia was the QR payment. In Italy, we're still quite far behind on electronic payments, and there's a big stigma on paying with credit card on amounts that's less than 5-10 euro. Whereas here, no matter the amount, even if it's 1 ringgit, perfectly fine to just take your phone, scan the QR, and just pay whatever you have to pay. And I think it's a pretty nifty method of paying as well.
Assalamualaikum, Elsa di sini. Hai guys, hai semua, halo tetangga. Gimana kabar teman-teman semua? Semoga sehat selalu, semoga bahagia selalu, dan semoga hari teman-teman semua selalu good day. Selamat datang di channel YouTube Widianti Putri. Hari ini aku akan mereaction video dari channel Kaya Latte. Dia bilang, jangan pergi ke Malaysia kalau kalian tidak mengetahui hal ini. Oke, kita akan melihat bagaimana experience dari Kaya, bagaimana cerita dari Kaya juga, dan apa yang membuat dia shock sampai mengatakan jangan pergi ke Malaysia kalau belum tahu hal ini. Oke, nanti kita lihat sama-sama video seperti apa. Tapi sebelum dimulai video reactionnya, seperti biasa aku mau ngajakin teman-teman semua dulu untuk subscribe channel ini dan aktifkan lonceng notifikasinya supaya tidak ketinggalan updatean terbaru dari channel ini. Dan bagi teman-teman yang mau request, bisa banget DM di Instagram aku di @Widianti_Putri. Yaudah, tanpa berlama-lama, tanpa membuang masa, jumlah kita mulai video reactionnya. Are you ready? Let's go.
Okay, this is my third time in Malaysia now.
Okay,
and I wanted to share with you some culture
shocks
shocks and things that have struck me.
Okay.
And I will admit, this first culture shock is more my fault than anything, because I didn't do a whole lot of research. I was just going all around Southeast Asia.
Aku juga
unlike
kayak
other
gitu,
Southeast Asian countries, Malaysia is very mencari
banyak riset tentang Malaysia. Jadi ya, waktu itu pas pertama kali ke Malaysia banyak kesalahan yang aku lakukan, tapi it's okay. Aku jadikan itu sebuah pelajaran dan pembelajaran tempat-tempat yang ada di Malaysia juga, supaya tidak salah lagi.
60% of the Malaysian population is ethnically Malay, whereas the other 40 is a mix of
lots of mix
Chinese, Indians, and other ethnic. And you can see this in the daily life. You can walk around the street and you see a mosque and a Buddhist temple on the same street, Hindu temples, churches, all that stuff. And it's not a common sight in Southeast Asia or most of the world, really. So it's a very unique experience. Another ways it manifests is in language. Bahasa Melayu is the official language of Malaysia, but all over the streets you will hear many languages like Chinese, Tamil, even English. Can you speak English? There is food for every palate here. You have Malay cuisine, Chinese cuisine, Indian cuisine, many spices, cooking with coconut, or especially the cooking with coconut. You have nasi lemak, lemak gravy, just very, very rich cuisine. But keep in mind, Malaysian cuisine can also get quite spicy. I can handle it by now, but if you have a soft palate, be wary. The food has some kick to it here. And speaking of food, you will find food at any time of the day here. 24 hours, there is always a place open. Even in the smaller towns, there's a mamak that serves food 24 hours. Yeah. So there's always an option here in Malaysia. And on to the next thing, which I think is more of an Asian thing than strictly Malaysian, is a lot of people eat dessert before the main course, which is a thing that I, to this day, still can get quite used to. But I can appreciate the idea of having dessert whenever I want. Don't be shocked when your Malaysian friends invite you out to eat or in their home and they start eating with their hands. It is quite common practice here, and it's a thing I really appreciate, to just be able to be in contact with the food and just be able to grub, and something I really appreciate as an Italian. Another thing I discovered in Malaysia was the QR payment. In Italy, we're still quite far behind on electronic payments, and there's a big stigma
waktu itu aku beli
on
baju di salah satu kedai kan, baju-baju jersey Malaysia gitu untuk anak-anak. Jadi di situ pembayarannya itu udah pembayaran yang lebih modern, pakai QR gitu. Jadi kayak pembayaran Malaysia lebih banyak menggunakan QR atau cashless gitu guys.
Paying with credit card on amounts that's less than 5-10 euro. Whereas here, no matter the amount, even if it's 1 ringgit, perfectly fine to just take your phone, scan the QR, and just pay whatever you have to pay. And I think it's a pretty nifty method of paying as well. And it's not big establishments either. Even places you don't expect it, like small stalls or in the night markets, most places have a QR payment option. So I think that's pretty cool and convenient. Another point for all you
Jadi
toilet
tidak perlu
paper
banyak bawa
enthusiasts,
uang
in a lot of
cash ya
places
guys, cash
except
ringgit.
hotels, there is no toilet paper. But you will find a little sport water gun to take care of your washing necessities. But one of the biggest shocks, which is weather related, is the AC. Sometimes I'll be walking into shops and feel like I have to put on a jacket. It's so cold in there. And even the temperature, like for example in Italy, it's illegal to have AC below 18 degrees. Whereas I've been in rooms where the temperature is as low as 16 degrees. One shock, which I feel is more Southeast Asian than strictly Malaysian, is the infatuation with ghost lore. There are literally dozens of types of ghosts in Malaysia, and they can range from the floating head to good-natured ghosts to evil ghosts, helping ghosts, sneaky ghosts. And you will see this also reflected in cinema. There are countless horror movies. The thing is, if you go to a movie theater to watch one of these movies, you will even see families with their own kids to these movies. I thought that was interesting and definitely not something you see in Italy every day. Keep in mind while booking your hotel, if you're a light sleeper, that some prayer calls throughout the day can be quite loud, and they can start as early as 5 in the morning. While harmonious, you might get waken up. And not just mosques, even many Hindu temples do this as well. Keep this little piece of information in mind, especially if you're a light sleeper. Another thing you have to get ready for, and this is not really a cultural shock, but more of a weather one. Sometimes you will be walking around, it's a nice sunny day, and then boom, all of a sudden there's a monsoon. Just the most rain you will ever see in your life in that moment. Oh, also, and I have no idea how I forgot this, you're probably aware that in Asia, you take off your shoes before stepping inside the house. That's also the case for many small businesses. You will see either a shoe rack inside or outside will be full of shoes and slippers. Or if there's no one inside, just a sign. I was actually scolded once by the owner of Adobe place. Adobe is where you can get your laundry done, because I didn't notice the sign on the floor, so be aware, okay? Don't go to Malaysia without knowing the following things that I will tell you. The first thing I want to mention, which actually bothers me a little bit even, is acting like a bird. Cheap, cheap, cheap. Hello, ini berapa?
40 ringgit.
Oh wow, so cheap. You gotta understand, just because your currency is stronger than a local population doesn't mean that things are cheap for them. I actually think that going off about things are cheap, cheap, cheap here is a little insensitive, so be wary of that. On to point number 2, it is very impolite to point with your finger in Malaysia.
Do you know where is the 7-E?
I think it's that way. Oh no, wait. Maybe it's that way.
Kayak nggak sopan gitu kalau nunjuknya pakai
The more polite
telunjuk.
way to point things, like in a shop or any situation, you can just do it with your thumb, or you can also cup your hand
Atau
and
kayak gini.
point it wherever you need. Point number 3 is touching people's heads.
Behind it. What?
Keep in mind, especially among Indians and Malays, that the head is the most sacred part of the body, and even with people you're in friendly terms with, playing around
Tapi
with
aku
the
suka loh
head
di
is seen as a
ini
sign of
kepalanya
disrespect.
dielus. Tapi bukannya apa ya, yang bukan muhrim ya.
I mentioned this next point in our previous video about the culture shocks, and I said that before walking inside homes and small businesses, you take off your shoes. That's also the case for mosques and temples, so be sure to be mindful and respect this custom. An important one that can actually get you in trouble is criticizing the monarchy and religion. Honestly, I think the Sultan should just...
Jangan mengkritik
There's actually a
sultan.
term here in the country, the 3 R's. 3 R's, which are religion, race, and royalty. So make sure to be respectful about these things and keep some thoughts to yourself. I can't believe I have to mention this next one, but I've heard of a couple of instances. So if you have Muslim Malaysian friends, if you wish to give them a gift, make sure it's not alcohol or pork based. Extra points even if they have a halal label on them. This next one is important not only in Malaysia, but also Southeast and East Asia as well. is the concept of harmony in society, which reflects also in day-to-day interactions, as in people here tend to avoid direct confrontation. So be sure to be mindful and not come off too aggressive. Even myself, as an Italian, sometimes I can get quite animated. And it may come off as me being aggressive. But in my head, that's not the case. But to people here can come off as aggressive. So be wary and avoid direct confrontation. This next one really just don't do anywhere. This spitting in public, not just Malaysia, just don't spit on the ground.
Di negara lain
Just
juga kayak
don't
gitu
do it,
kayaknya.
please.
Nggak boleh
Stop
mudah
it.
sembarangan.
Get some help.
This next point,
nggak sopan
you will
gitu.
also see many signs in your hotels as well, is do not bring durian inside the
durian,
hotel. Well, I don't think it's stinky
bau-bau
anymore
yang
because I
menyengat
actually
gitu,
enjoy
nggak
the
boleh.
smell now. But it is forbidden to bring them into most hotels and public transportation as well. And speaking of durian, in one of our previous videos, we talk about durian and I eat it with my Malaysian family. So you can check that out if you like. Another important thing to know is don't expect all the beaches here to be swimmable. Malaysia being a tropical country surrounded by water, and many people expect it to be full of swimmable beaches, but the fact is that a lot of the beaches are either not swimmable or infested with jellyfish, poisonous jellyfish at that.
Jadi harus dicari
So keep
tahu
that in mind
informasinya
while planning your
terlebih
trip,
dahulu gitu ya,
and if
guys.
going to the beach is important to you, then do the proper research. Also keep in mind, I'm talking about peninsular Malaysia here. I unfortunately have not had the pleasure of going to Borneo yet, so I can't speak for that. I want to thank you very much for watching this far. If you like the video, please like. It's
Okay.
much appreciated and it goes a long way. Please, if you have more suggestions, let us know in the comments so you can help out other travelers as well. And if you don't want to miss our travel and food videos, then don't forget to subscribe, okay?
Okay.
I want to thank you again for watching and take care.
Nah, jadi itu adalah beberapa culture shock dan hal yang tidak boleh kita lakukan ketika datang ke Malaysia. Oke, jadi pengalamannya kurang lebih sama dengan pengalaman yang aku lakukan, yang aku rasakan. Saat pertama kali di Malaysia, aku prepare-nya mungkin memang kurang banget. Jadi banyak kesalahan yang baru aku sadari ketika aku mengedit video. Ketika di Malaysia nanti, benar-benar harus cari tahu dulu seluk-beluk Malaysia tentang makanannya, tempat-tempatnya dan sebagainya gitu. Seperti tidak boleh menggunakan jari telunjuk untuk menunjuk sesuatu. Jadi sangat disarankan untuk menggunakan jempol ataupun menggunakan 5 jari langsung. Orang India, orang Melayu, Malaysia menganggap bahwa kepala itu adalah bagian yang suci gitu. Jadi tidak boleh sembarang memegang gitu guys. Mungkin dari video ini bisa dijadikan informasi bagi teman-teman yang memerlukan informasi. Mungkin ada di antara teman-teman nih ya, mungkin di luar Malaysia pengen ke Malaysia. Nah, teman-teman udah tahu nih ternyata hal ini yang harus dilakukan, hal ini yang tidak boleh dilakukan ketika datang ke Malaysia. Oke, untuk video kali ini cukup sekian. Bagi teman-teman yang suka sama video ini, jangan lupa untuk like, comment, dan subscribe. Dan kita ketemu di next video. Bye bye. Assalamualaikum.